don't understand why you're 40 years old and playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruise through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. But.
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you can study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Alright, then.
Cool. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Arcade. My name is Brian. I know that I look like Vivian, but I'm not. And I am here with my co-host, John, the problematic white guy. Hi, John. Thanks
Indeed.
for coming on and hanging out with me. I feel like these shows, I just need somebody to bounce things off of. So I'm normally like talking into the void, and that's how it feels when you're hosting things by yourself. And I'm just more of a
Most definitely.
conversationalist. Yeah. So, and I'm glad you're here because there's a lot going on. I got back recently from a trip to Chicago, and because of that, hey, what's up, Big Rat Killer? I was told there would be free cake.
I know this guy.
You do? Oh, okay. Well, apparently they're expecting cake.
I'm sorry, Rat Killer. The cake was a lie.
Yeah. So, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the stream. We're gonna be talking a little bit about stuff going on in the culture. I have like some unique perspectives to share on things. I don't know. Maybe they're not unique, but I'm an old head. Been doing this a long time. And I'm a big advocacy for art and artistic freedom and the importance of good stories. And that's why I like to talk about cultural things. I think that they do have an impact on our, not just our politics, but like our ability to relate to one another as human beings. So hopefully we can, I don't know, we'll learn something. I mean, I'm hoping to learn something all the time. So,
Indeed.
yeah,
That is what
so,
life's about, is making changes and growing and, always learning more.
Yeah, that's right. So, we got a few things to get into, but I do see more people joining. What's up? Robert Johnson, welcome back. Yes, it's good, man. That drive back from Chicago to Virginia was brutal. I actually got sick for like a couple days after returning. I don't know if it was because I was in a car for 11 hours or whatever, but I was exhausted and I was just beat up. Like my arms were, I'm surprised at how tired you can be from driving where you're literally sitting down, for like hours,
Right.
but I was really tired, dude, really tired. So I'm feeling good now. And yeah, so let's talk about the today's or this week's events. I'm just gonna go ahead and like get right into it. So again, thanks for joining me, John. I'm curious about your thoughts on this. So first, we're gonna talk about the thing that blew up the internet. Apparently, it blew up the internet that Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU. And he's playing Dr. Doom?
Yeah.
So I want to, okay, let's play this little clip from Extra, and then we'll sort of think about it. Because there's a few things going through my mind here that I think that I would bring forward. Although it's an interesting, I don't know what you even call it. I guess let's just look at this.
Indeed.
Talk about a Marvel shocker heard across the multiverse.
New mask, same task.
5 years after Robert Downey Jr.'s iconic superhero Iron Man met his end in Avengers Endgame, the Oscar winner will don a different mask to play the ultimate bad guy, Dr. Doom, in the next 2 Avengers films.
What can I tell you? I like playing complicated characters.
His Avengers co-star Gwyneth Paltrow was a little bit confused, asking RDJ on Instagram, "I don't get it. Are you a baddie now?" Just how they'll pull this switcheroo off remains a marvelous mystery. And the Flying Fantastic Car at Comic-Con's Hall H helped to welcome the cast of the super hyped Fantastic Four reboot.
It's incredible to be able to share any of this with the world.
Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Eben Moss-Bachrach blown away by the enthusiastic fandom as they begin shooting this week in London.
We've just started, so...
Wait, is this guy Ben Grimm? Kind of small.
Yeah.
I mean, what? You know, I know that the Ben Grimm, even before he became the Thing, was not a small guy. He was kind of like a jock.
Kind of thuggish already. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like a
Yeah.
jock. He was in a street gang. Okay. Well, anyway, it's a bit weird, but whatever. I can get into some other
2024.
issues, but yeah, 2024. Weird casting choices all around.
We're kind of throwing down the gauntlet. You know, it's a nice sort of challenge for us to, to live up to.
I had the best time ever.
82 years old and not slowing down a bit. Harrison Ford kept it real, revealing why he joined the upcoming Captain America Brave New World.
You may be Captain America, but you're not Steve Rogers.
I've been watching a bunch of terrific actors have a really good time, and I thought I might want a piece of that.
I could use a Wolverine, I could use a Deadpool, I could use someone.
And
all right, I'm okay. I wanted to just play the bit with, although it is interesting to see the bits with the Fantastic Four, because I wanted to bring up something about that that I think the Doctor Doom thing is related to. So,
Right.
I guess firstly, what do you think about this decision to?
It's one of two ways you can read it. I mean, in one way, yes, it is a different character. We have seen characters or actors play multiple roles in the MCU before, so it's not without precedent. However, with that stated, it is about the most desperate thing that Disney could do after taking it in the tank as hard as they have for the last few years to just turn around and drop a whole boatload of money in front of Robert Downey Jr. to say, how can we get you back on the screen today, immediately, and work our way towards getting ultimately Iron Man back, as Iron Man is what I'm seeing this as. And that's even if he's not a variant of Tony Stark to begin with. I just see this as, a means to an end.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. There's definitely a desperation going on there. And the desperation is, we really want to sell tickets. We know that Robert Downey Jr. sold tickets, so we're going to try and bring him back. and I don't know if Disney understands that this is not really why the old MCU movies did well. It wasn't because it had this person in it. Like they also threw a lot of money at the Russo brothers, who were the directors of, I believe they were involved with Captain America Winter Soldier, which is probably the best MCU movie, Civil War, and then like the Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame. And so like those were massively successful. But again, even then, it's not just, getting the right people. I think that they are making a mistake in that they think that, if we just bring back the guy everybody likes, and this is extremely desperate. That being said,
So desperate.
Yeah, it's absolutely a desperate move on the part of the MC, and I'm not going to give them my money regardless. So this isn't me like trying to like convince myself that I should like give them my money. I'm not going to. I guess we'll see what they do with it. I think that they're kind of in narratively they're in a between a rock and a hard place too, though, because um see, so they're doing the Fantastic Four. This is why they're doing Doctor Doom. They're doing the Fantastic Four. They waited a long time to do it. I don't know why they waited this long. I guess part of it had to do with the fact they didn't have the rights because it was owned by was it 20th Century Fox, I think, owned it.
The-
Back when
I
they
think it was either that or Paramount.
Yeah, I one of them owned it. I think it was because
You're right, it's Fox. It's Fox.
it was Fox. Okay, yeah. So and we had those Jessica Alba, movies that I didn't hate. Like, I mean, I have the first two because I just love that comic book. Like, I grew up on the Fantastic Four. They're one of my favorite superhero groups, but um I knew that they weren't going to be able to get it right. And one of the things that I said, and I remember Eric July said this too, but I said this first. I'm going to take credit for this. I said, I dare them to make a comic book movie about a superhero team that is a nuclear family that is white. Because that's what the FF is, right? Not that, and it doesn't have to mean anything, but for these people, there's like a symbolic problem with even like representing that. That's why, there's more of a, that's why like the X-Men movies did, maybe they were a property that was more likely to be invested in because they weren't a nuclear family. They were more of a bohemian family, more of like oh, we're all misfits and we're living together. It's kind of like a commune and a school and, they see that in a symbolic way, like what it means for them. It's not, I'm not saying that Stan Lee intended this for the X-Men, but it's just the way people see them. So there's a contrast between the family of the X-Men and the family of the Fantastic Four. And the Fantastic Four was always supposed to be what Stan Lee had intended. It was the book that saved Marvel, was the FF, right? And he was like,
Right.
I'm gonna make it a family and they all get powers and they also, because they're just people, they bicker and they argue and all of that. That was like what it was, and it was based in this kind of science fiction stories, and it was very exciting stuff. And I always knew that they weren't going to have an easy time, like Disney wouldn't have an easy time adapting it because they're so ideologically driven to show like to show family as flawed and men as flawed, and and this kind of like are they going to have kids, like these kinds of things. And
Right.
I guess yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was gonna say that, and like it's so often that these days you need some ethnically beige woman to explain to you in a corporate sounding way, like how to go about doing life. So it does seem like a weird kind of choice for them to make all this. And it's like, well, where is the ethnically beige woman who's going to teach me how to do things in life?
Well, I'm wondering where they're going to put that in, because I feel like there will be like the movie's not even like, I haven't seen any trailers or anything for FF, but I have a feeling it's I'm a little concerned. All I'll say is I don't think it's going to measure up. I'd be surprised if it did. And it's sad because it means that the original, well, not original, but probably the best Fantastic Four movie is probably still Roger Corman's from like the 80s.
It's funny how many people say that more and more with each passing year,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because like again, even in the Jessica Alba ones, there were some, they put Jessica Alba as the Invisible Girl, and I was like, but she's Latina, like that's in her name. And I just thought it was weird. Like, what? I don't know who they should have cast. I might have gone with, back in the day, let me see, who would have been good. I probably would have gone with like a Michelle Pfeiffer or something, like if she was young enough to pass, she would have been good.
Yeah, like early 2000s. I mean, there was plenty of contemporary blonde women that were in their 30s that would have been perfectly acceptable at the time. So yeah.
Yeah. So All right. Well, anyway, that aside, so you have this new FF property, and the casting as it exists, I guess, is not enough for them to sell it, right? Because the enthusiasm for everything that Disney has made is that like it's rock bottom. Like no one gives a shit other than this Deadpool and Wolverine thing, which we'll get into next after this. There's no enthusiasm for these properties, and it's not, in my opinion, superhero fatigue, because I know people like to say that. I don't think that's true. I think that to some degree, everyone wants hero stories. It's just they're just sick of bad writing, and they're just sick of being preached at. And I think that's all it is. And I would say the Deadpool Wolverine movie is evidence of that I would present. But also the success of shows like Invincible and The Boys, um, which people are still watching, even though I'm not watching them. And so like so you have this Fantastic Four movie. How do we sell it? And I think that they can't, like, Pedro Pascal is not enough on his own. And I know that they're putting him in everything. They're trying to convince us he's the thing that's happening. They're trying to make Pedro Pascal happen, and he's not happening. You know, he was in The Last of Us. He was in Mandalorian. And in fact, I was more interested in him in The Mandalorian when I didn't know who he was, and he didn't show his face. You know?
Right. No, he's definitely one of those guys who was better off, unknown and getting higher in the access to Hollywood in terms of being the guy that they hire for every role. It seems like, he's clearly lost his luster, and whatever mystique there was is gone.
Well,
gone.
I that's a separate thing, but yeah, I think it's because a lot of the, like, these days it seems to me that the people who get the most exposure in Hollywood are not necessarily the people who are the best at their job, but it's just like the people who there's like a weird sort of artificial uplifting of folks. So, I mean, again, like back when I used to watch a lot of movies in the 80s, most of the time, very few people would sell a film just by their name. Like you might get, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, something like that. But a lot of times people they almost like had to bust their ass to like become renowned, for doing something. Harrison Ford is a good example of that. Like he did those. Yes, we knew him as Han Solo and Indiana Jones, but he also did those Patriot games, like those political thrillers, and he was, and it was because he was good. Like that was it, and
he was Henry.
Yeah, right. He had a Robin Williams. He had like a lot of range. He did dramatic roles, he did comedic roles, he was all over the place. I don't think they do that as much now. It seems to me they're just like, we're gonna make Zendaya happen. So we're gonna put Zendaya in everything. And it's a short list. It's like what you keep seeing the same people. You're like, oh look, it's and then when those people, like when they like say they have someone that they like and they're sort of nurturing and putting them in more and more projects. If those people go against the grain, then they start losing work. So for example, Jenna Ortega, she was, the it girl for a little while. She did the Wednesday thing, but then when she got into a lot of, like, I guess, arguments with people on the set because she thought Wednesday Addams should behave a certain way, and she was very committed to being like true to the source material. And so she's like, now we're not seeing her as much. Same thing with Henry Cavill. All the shit that he gave the people on The Witcher, because he didn't like the direction they were taking it. And I mean, he got to make a cameo in this new, Wolverine Deadpool thing. But yeah, I mean, I think that he's getting less work too. So
yeah, I have a theory on some of that stuff. Because like here in the chat, people are saying it's it's woke fatigue, and I would along those lines say and I think that you and I both have a background in art school, so like it's one of those things that really it doesn't get discussed too much online yet, it seems. But a lot of the reason why, at least, and this is my theory from just seeing the way that the entertainment industry has kind of devolved over the last 30 years, because it's like what you were talking about. You used to not have it where a movie was sold on on like an individual person until like somewhere around like, it started to build during the 80s into the 90s, and then really, kind of calcified at the end of the 90s, early 2000s. And those were like, this is Blockbuster. You go and see the Schwarzenegger movie, go and see this, that, and so on and so forth. And, I think that, like when I was in art school, a thing that I noticed is everybody goes there, they want to, like improve their abilities and their skills and all their talents and everything that they had as an artist going into art school. But then you get there, and what happens is they spend the next 4 to 5 years of you being there working on you, doing the whole indoctrination process, especially recently, decades, as it's
100%
more indoctrinated in its own, just homogeny of their staffing, and so it becomes very one-sided, and then it becomes about the process itself. And so it's not even about making good art anymore. It's about, it's the problem with having too much money involved in an artistic process, because then once it becomes too much business, and the focus and the intention becomes about other things, then the artistic integrity gets lost along the way. And that's why you have to, do good casting and good hiring in the, actual creation roles and things like that, to have actual stewards who can take on that role and have that be the thing that carries it through. Like, say, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And you could see how they very much were in respect of doing service to a property that predates any of the people involved with it. So you would have to be a pretty arrogant asshat to go and try to think that you're somehow going to improve it or make it better by putting in whatever your idiosyncratic whatever happens to be. And and so as that goes by, I think people over the course of the last few decades of this just becoming more and more of a superficial kind of process, where the few corporations that run everything, they all have a variation of the exact same thing. And so you start seeing, four versions of a disaster movie come out in the year for this, and it gets so repetitious and so just utterly empty and flavorless and bland that that's where we're at. And then you reach the point of beyond parody, because once the formula stops working, then they start doing what they've been doing, which is we just got to keep the revenue flowing. We got to keep engagement high and do this and that. And like, they've changed the way that they go about doing business so that it's not even rewarding for the audience or the actors or, just even the state of storytelling. And so my ultimate conclusion from all this is that this is the purpose. And the whole narrative agenda that they use to hollow out stories is, kind of like a long-term humiliation play to destroy the very concept of heroes as an archetype, because this is ultimately, the Marxist kind of communist threat of, well, we don't want anybody to think of themselves in an individualistic light as having, uniqueness and properties to themselves they're trying to burn that out of everybody right now and just tell us all the numbers. And so I think that that's really what we're seeing is, the response to that. And so now I think what's going to be happening over the course of this next year is they're going to try to make just some stupid, superfluous. It's going to seem like it's avoiding the message, but that's because they're going to like start peppering it into other places or do the stuff on the kind of, around the issue, where like now when you go to a website to go and put in a comment, you're going to be greeted with the terms of service of, you have to basically stay within our realm of what we allow you to use for conversation in terms of the words that you speak. And if you deviate outside of that, then you're not even on the platform and you have to sign to that. So that's the world that we're living in, is like all this arbitration and overreach, eliminating people's freedoms and liberties to operate openly in public. And because now everything is under these privacy concerns through legalistic means, and it completely ruins everything.
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with that. When I went to art school, I was just thinking about this today, and I was talking to my wife about it. When I went to art school, with this express goal of learning how to draw and paint better. That was all I wanted. I just wanted the skills, and I was hoping that an art teacher would give those to me, right? And the mistake I made was that I didn't know how much, not just like art education changed, but art itself changed. And it's not about the craft, and it wasn't when I was there, even though there were a couple of professors that were sort of holding on to this idea. There were like, I swear to God, I think I had two that cared about the craft, and the rest of them, they saw art as a means to essentially communicate cathedral talking points. So it was like, do you agree with the orthodoxy? You have to like say things with your artwork that essentially makes a statement in favor of our religion. That is the religion of, this sort of, like you say, this commie propaganda. And it doesn't matter how good you are at making it. That's why art has become so ugly today, because the art that gets promoted. And this is an old thing that's been going on for a long time. This gatekeeping of like actual meritocracy. This is the reason why the stuff that is in galleries and museums and, in collectors' spaces, the stuff that gets media attention, it's all crap. This is why you get like these, environmental activists that, like, I don't know, smear orange paint on the Mona Lisa, or you get like they graffitied they vandalized the Liberty Bell over the weekend, or very recently. I remember seeing this happen, over like this Free Palestine stuff. And these people think that they're creating art. They're like, oh, I'm making a statement, right? That's why you get like there's like an art piece that's just like a rock, like a big rock, and because it's what matters is this comes from, the Dadaist period and the sort of existential periods and the brutalism, of like the turn of the century and sort of around the time of the Bolshevik Revolution, where art had to be offensive and attention getting and make a political statement. Otherwise, it's not art. And the truth is that beauty, in my opinion, beauty is truth. And that if you go against that, then you're trying to make the world ugly on purpose. And we can look at, I mean, I'm not going to bring it up now, we're not going to go into it, but like you can look at the Olympics. Like everything is, it's this really ugly imagery. It's not just, like a parody of the Last Supper. Yeah, it's intentionally grotesque. That's what I'm saying. Yes. It's intentionally grotesque, and it inverts reality. It's supposed to do that, and then it becomes art. That's why people can be like, sex workers can say that they're artists. People who cover themselves head to toe in I don't know, ugly tattoos or whatever will be like, well, I'm an artist, and it's like, no. And so like when I went to art school, I didn't get what I needed from them. I had to learn everything on my own. So
right. I had a very similar kind of thing, other than my foundationals, because as you said, like there was a few. When I was there, it was still 2005, 2009 time period of history. So like it was very much on the cusp. So my foundationals, in terms of just like, like how to use, like what pencils to use and like this and that, like actually just being an artist with the most nondescript stuff in the world, like that, they still had a few people there for that stuff. But I went for game design, interactive design, game development specifically. So you'd think that they would have gotten all these people, but we were like the test pilot class. We were the first ones that for the Savannah College of Art and Design, was where I went to school at. And the woman who was our department head was basically being she was being ascended into the role of the head of the Women in Games special interest group. The
Oh
year
boy.
that yeah, so like yeah, and that's when you kind of think about like how what is our connection and all this stuff. It does go back all the way to Gamergate.
For sure.
And the initial people involved in that, because like with the women in games specifically, they came into fruition in 2009, if I remember correctly. I think that was the GDC year that they did the big to do for it. But the IGDA itself is the biggest special interest group in the world, and so through them, that's basically the money funnel to direct money from World Economic Forum entities, the United Nations, your Ashcroft, Rockefeller foundations, and everything like that is largely done through the IGDA. And that's why it's interesting. All of a sudden, like all these people talking about how woke's gonna die and it's going away, and it's like no, they're just changing the branding, they're changing the labeling, and they're moving it to different aspects of the business architecture itself.
Yeah.
And so like that's where you'll see like they're like even the whole thing, the initiative to get women in games is ultimately so that they can not have to pay out their male counterparts as much money, and so that they could ultimately show lacking results, which happened historically speaking, that we're seeing now, to put them in this position now to where they can say, well, we can change out all these employees with AIs and save even more money. And so, like this whole effort to have women in games was ultimately a fool's errand that left everyone out in the cold. And now, like, women in games doesn't even actually represent women in games. It represents the trans humanist ideology, obviously, because that's what all this stuff is ultimately seemingly leading towards, because the most climate conscious thing that you can do is end your ability to reproduce. And
for sure,
and if you could end your pulse and all your heavy breathing,
you are the carbon they want to reduce.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Footprints they're getting rid of, so
although I don't know if it's like one single goal. I think that's definitely a potential outcome, but like you create enough nihilism and despair in people, and you make everything appear pointless enough, and some of those people will just remove themselves from the gene pool, and some of those people will sort of move down the transhumanist path. But it does start with that sort of like that general malaise of everything is pointless. I'm just gonna get through the day, and that's where nihilism creeps in. I think that's where it comes from. I got a couple of chats I want to highlight really quick. Unfortunately, this channel's not monetized yet, so I don't get super chats. Although sometimes people send me Rumble rants. Shout out to Rumble, by the way.
Indeed.
But Zeranx over here on the YouTube says, I think what Frank Zappa said regarding yuppies deciding what happens in the music industry is happening in Hollywood and has been a slowly growing cancer for decades. Yes. Well, I would say the thing about what's going on with the MCU, and I'll come back to this, is a lot of the problems with modern films is that it is made by committee instead of like a small number, if not a single individual that is passionate about a specific project. So because it's being done by committee, you have a bunch of untalented people that all deserve equal consideration for their ideas, and then you have like really shitty stories as a result, especially because most of these people are insecure narcissists that need to see something about themselves. So when they say I'm giving input, what they're saying is I want me to be in this thing. And there was a joke I heard where it said that this is how you get a talking dog at the end of Schindler's List, because everyone wants their part to be represented, right? So you get, well, I want a talking dog in this movie, and it's like, but this is not really the place for that. So I think that it is you have a large number of uncreative, untalented undeserving people that are involved in the creative process. And another good example of this is video games. Like I've seen a number of indie titles that will show off amazing gameplay, and they'll be made by like one dude. You know, like one person, one spurgy Korean made this game, or whatever it is, right? Or there would just be a really small team. Like this is the reason why, for example, Hidetaka Miyazaki is the guy behind From Software. Everybody hates him because he is basically not, he doesn't do this alone, but he is like the single creative force behind those Souls games. And everyone else just gets in line and they essentially try their best to honor his vision. And that's why you get his games are massively successful. But like these really big projects, like these, the Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, which they spent God knows how much and nobody's playing it. I think that the player base has hit record lows. It's because of the people involved. It's like they want everybody to have a say and everybody's say to be equal, or at least be equally considered. And so you end up with a trashy product. So thank you for that. And then Jim Giraffe, who's a buddy of mine. Hey Jim, he says Deadpool/Wolverine is another anti-Christian offering. Might as well watch the Olympic opening ceremony. I haven't seen it. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I know that like my friend Dave Cullen, who has a channel called the Dave Cullen Show, and he made a review and he said that his issue with the Deadpool Wolverine movie was that it was just a bunch of jokes and it was like vulgar to the point where he didn't see any reason behind it. And I don't know, like I don't know what people would have expected from that, but I feel like that might be all that franchise has is vulgarity and violence.
That is Deadpool is
Yeah.
special bubblegum popcorn, like don't overthink it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, like it's kind of like in the same vein as like a movie like Blade. Dude's got a sword and he's gonna like kill vampires. What else do I?
Yeah.
So, I to some degree, I can get the criticism though too, because like while it is important to have stuff that's a little bit more carefree and not everything has to be about like like escapism is still supposed to be escapism, but on our way to getting to a place where we don't have to think about the this and the that's, the thing that would be that we always have to kind of know going in is that especially now the when you go to see a movie or this or some kind of entertainment experience, because it is so agenda focused, even if it's coming through, and that's the thing that people don't realize, I think still, is that this stuff didn't just happen overnight. It's slowly picked up velocity and like a train, and that's why I always go back to like the 1990s on Disney in the 1990s is really for me where a lot of this PC insanity began, and you can kind of see it metastasize, and it gets more and more just kind of repugnant and in its expression with each passing year. But it's taken like 30 years to get to this point to where we've had like these meddling middle management of I know their next big thing is women in STEM, but it used to be that women got into white collar roles through HR, and then HR spun out into all of these consulting firms. And so now through the consulting firm kind of methodology, they've got these Cattlegate systems that go and astroturf and superimpose a whole bunch of women into the process. Not to say that you can't have creative women and this and that, but meddling middle managers and like the put this in there, poly, like you were just talking about, we need to have the talking dogs.
Yeah,
that's what they do, but they do it for the DEI shit. And so when you have all these people who can effectively take all of your artistic integrity and just put a red check mark through it and say, no, this has to be this because next month is false flag month, and we have to have a color revolution under the guise of a pride parade. And so we're going to do everything we can to go along with that, because marketing has more kind of influence in a lot of modern games and movies than the person who would have, historically wrote the story and done the adaptation even, so, and because it is like you're saying, like the disconnect of just having everything via committee, like basically Disney, they just film stuff and then assemble it after the fact, which is why everything has so much ADR and shots of people talking, with their back to the camera and all that kind of stuff, because they just assemble the stuff to substantiate, where they're at in their political aims, more so. And so when you go to watch the movie, even wanting the escapism, to get back to the original point, even if they provide something that looks like escapism, it's still going to be in there. So yes, there are. I haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine just yet, but from the trailer stuff, you already know that they've got stuff in there about like just normalizing, more stuff with pegging and like all the stuff, whatever's.
But he was doing that from the beginning. But yeah, for sure.
Right.
It was. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say I'm a guy who worked at a porn shop, so I don't get it. It's not like I'm offended, like I don't have Puritan sensibilities.
Yeah, sure.
But by that same stretch of the imagination, it
is
one of those things.
It is funny that Disney was willing to like compromise on the rating for this movie, considering all of the, and we'll get into that, but considering, Disney seems, at least the staff at Disney seem pretty hell-bent on like queering the children that watch their content. And so, yeah, they're like, yeah, we'll do some pegging. We'll have some pegging jokes. This is okay. We'll accept this. We'll sodomize dudes in our film. And I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's an accident. Like, however you feel about it is indifferent. It doesn't matter to me. But I don't think it's an accident.
It's a low-level attack, but it's attack nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. And that's another thing. That's why I think that we have to learn to be discerning and decide like what do we want to support. I wanted to also bring it back to something that we were talking about, where there are people who think that like the woke is ending, and obviously it's not. The issue with this is that what people have to understand is that like what the woke says. So there's a Mott and Bailey going on. Okay. So there's what they tell you that they, are doing, and then there's what they're actually doing. And what they're actually doing is far more sinister, but they can hide behind what they're telling you that they're doing, and it works. And the reason why is because people in general are afraid of being seen as bigoted. So and this has an effect. Like, for whatever reason, people are still heavily affected. I see it all the time. I see even people who are, like supposedly, critical of the stuff that Disney does and mainstream Hollywood does, involving like whatever it is they're doing, like all of the stuff they've done with Star Wars and lesbian space witches, all the stuff that they've done to essentially shit on Immaculate Conception, which they did with the Star Wars show as well. All of these things, and we all know they're doing it, and they're doing it on purpose, and they're doing it in our faces, but nobody wants to be seen as, a backwards, like, I don't know, like Bible thumping whatever. So they don't say anything. And even though they know that there's something wrong, they don't want to speak out because they don't want to be considered a bigot. They don't want to be that thrown at them. And that label is very easy to throw. And because people are afraid of it, and therefore this is why woke will never die, because on some level we have to be able to say, well, I don't care what you think about me. I just think this is wrong. And it doesn't matter what the reason for it is. Like maybe I'm not like Christian, but I just see that there's something morally wrong here, and I'm going to speak up about it. But people are too, like I said, they're too petrified of the consequence. And then not just cancellation, because like, yeah, that can happen. But even if you just said, yeah, I'm not going to watch it. But like I'll see people, they'll do a review of something and they'll say, they'll try to create an equivocation. They'll be like, well, I'm not sexist because, and then they'll explain why they're not sexist. Right. And then they'll say, this justifies my criticism of this show that you will claim makes me sexist for criticizing. And it's like, stop doing that. Just stop doing that. Stop apologizing for having an opinion. Stop letting allegations of sexism or racism influence your commentary, because it is a weapon that is used to silence you. You have to understand that you know whether or not you are sexist or racist. Nobody can tell you that, right? But people will react to the threat of it. And so they'll be like, well, look, I don't want to be considered, racist. So, and I think that's a big obstacle. And this is the reason why woke won't go away until people stop apologizing, or even like having that hesitation of like, oh, should I criticize this thing? If you don't let that go, it won't go away. And they know it works. That's why they use it. Like, they don't care about racism or sexism. They just know it's a useful tool. So,
Whisper networks, whisper networks and concern trolling. Even though like shaming seems to have kind of seemingly gone out of practice, it has just been subverted into this new thing where it's like the shaming is now like, oh, you want to be decent. You want to throughout my life, I was always like this rebellious kind of person, right? Kid growing up, I was kind of streetwise and all that kind of stuff. But somewhere along the line, everything shifted, and it's like, well, the most rebellious thing you can do in, a land of the lost is actually give a shit, know what the hell things are, actually do things because you have legitimate intentions, and aren't just necessarily trying to profiteer or seek after like some superficial gain. It's like, and that's become in many ways like the focus of how I kind of, redirected my bearings in this world, because it was like, look, I like to think that I was never on the wrong path, so to speak. But at a certain point in time, like if you actually do the self-analysis and audit yourself from time to time, like I said, I went to art school, and like I realized that just by doing that in my life, that a lot of my intentions were subverted because of the dark magic that was, at play in just the community that we were in, because of the people that you're talking about. It's like, well, I don't want to be like considered somebody who's not like, and that's Hollywood nowadays. It's like, you have to be part of the cult. And, and so like, it doesn't take these grand pronouncements of, conspiracy theories where everybody's in on it. They just look for people that are already, in line with that kind of ideology to begin with. So they don't even have to ever like question or anything. And so like anything that they see, they won't ever look at as being out of line or weird or strange. And so they, it's more self-serving reinforcement. And it's just like a copy of a copy becomes more smudged and blanded over time. And that's what we're seeing, is that it's the exact same NPC thought processes that have been replicated and homogenized over decades, and they were already, homogenized and like, minimized as much as possible 30 years ago. So, like it's so crazy to just see people kind of fall over themselves to carry the water for these larger entities that will do everything they can to diminish that individual as like, just being completely disposable and replaceable. Like, because that is modern entertainment mediums, is that you don't get by based on your best effort and actually achieving. You only kind of really get ahead because it's like the person in front of you finally either, found themselves in a position where they were able to be canceled, or they were like, like right at the end of their tether of where they could get on the diversity ladder. And because it works in different ways. Like the lower part of the ladder, like diversity hires get high up really fast on the mid ladder, but then there's like a plateau point. And then like, and that's where all this meddling, malaise, and fuckery starts to kind of, find its way into everyone and everything. And and that's what I like to think, though, that because of the last 5 years of the overreach that happened, that magic has been demystified in some ways. And so now everybody's sitting here looking at these parlor tricks.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are waking up It's just a matter of like how okay now that if you are now awake, how do you react? And I'm just like I have made my choice, and I think talking about it is helpful because then you can help other people see it as well. And I just want to point out one other thing too that people have to realize: allegations of bigotry only work on people who are themselves not bigots. So, like, they will only get you to react if you know that you're not the thing that they're telling you you are. Because if you are the thing that they're telling you they are, then they wouldn't use it on you because it wouldn't do anything because you wouldn't care. Imagine telling a KKK member that they were racist, as though it was going to make them like suddenly go, "Oh my God, am I? I'm sorry." Like, no, they're not going to care. You
Where are
know,
my manners?
yeah. What have I been? I didn't realize that. Like, no. So this stuff only works on people who are already not those things, and they're in fact repulsed by the very idea that they could be those things. That's why it works. That's why you have to be
Right.
discerning and don't accept those terms.
Honestly, I think that is the very reason, though, why that is the attack, though.
Yes.
It undercuts and it does subvert and it takes people away from their focus and where they would have been going otherwise. And it's the whole thing about like, well, we can have a conversation, but we're only going to have a conversation, an argument that I allow to happen because anytime that you bring up a point, I'm either going to spin it out or I'm going to do this or like, and so that's all this activism for the last, couple decades especially is just constantly taking what's supposed to be the front and center issue and saying, well, I'm just going to go over here and talk about this instead and like make it about that and like and eat it up all the time. And so that's like this weird world that we have where it's like, well, just filling time doesn't count as actually giving a response. Like you reacted, sure, you made noise, but who's better for it in the long term, and that's I think what happened is we got filled with a whole bunch of empty time by empty-headed people, and then now they cause this distraction to where everybody's focus is pulled. So while we're actually looking at that, trying to make the correction there, they're off changing all the policies so that when we turn around, we're not even allowed to say anything about what just happened because then now they have the legal precedence to censor us entirely. And so like that's the thing is this is setup. This is all like, and that's why I always talk about this in terms of, like one of my favorite movies is The Prestige. And I think everyone should watch it because that's the world that you live in. Everything.
That's my favorite Christopher Nolan movie.
Right?
Actually, it's my favorite one. I know a lot of people like, the Batman movies and Inception. No. The Prestige is the best one. Yeah.
Prestige is so enlightening. In terms of what it's actually doing. And it's like as just a movie, just as I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch this and not even think about it as escapism. It's great. It's amazing. But when you actually think about how it's talking to you about how symbology works and how the reinforcement, because when you talk about what are movies are a medium of expression by people that channel divine energies or profane ones. So quite literally, like the movies are enchantments. They are casting spells over you through sound, light, and vision, doing all the things. And so like, that's why it is so effective and so captivating, because if you just try to tell someone something outright, most people won't even, that they will be offended that information came from you. And so like, it's like why I always say there's more honesty in fiction than there is any truth in the news. And so like, when you look at like what a lot of fiction is about, it's ultimately about like, high-end demonic technology being used for life extension technologies, for, dystopic future hellscape type reality. And we keep reinforcing that theme through our science fiction based stories. And everything that is now a literal science fact was at one point in time a science fiction. So the reality that we live in is composed of fiction. Everything is fiction, and the fiction will tell you what will be the facts if you actually, open your eyes appropriately to see through what they're saying and why they're saying it. And then once you can actually see, like I always get into magic because there's different approaches to it. I myself am a wizard. Wizards, they share their wisdom. And they want everyone to have the ability to be a wizard. Sorcerers, on the other hand, they conceal, and they, do everything they can to prevent anyone from taking the source of their power, because that's what they hold over you. And then you also have the divine feminine witchcraft, which I have no clue what that's about, because obviously. And so that's the thing, is through these different methodologies, it's kind of a bike, a boat, and a train are all forms of, travel, transportation, and they can all get you to destinations, but how they get you there is very different. And through those experiences, that will also reinforce and shape you, and how you interact with it. And so I think that that's really kind of the situation at hand, is that there is a lot of high-end dark magic taking place in very pedestrian avenues, and it's just kind of how do we deal with that as people who are just supposed to act like this is just Tuesday,
Right.
It's just, nobody wants to think about those.
Well, it's not. It's actually interesting that you should bring that up, because I had a guest on a while back, Jay Ishiro, and his partner Kat Rocha. They wrote a book called Boobs of Steel, and it sounds like a silly book, but in it they go into how the science fiction, let's say, genre of literature, like the fiction books, science fiction books, were being gatekept by a couple of individual Marxists, basically, amongst whom were guys like Isaac Asimov, and they were specifically trying to keep out certain kinds of literature that they didn't want, they didn't want to essentially, they wanted to control the narrative of science fiction. And it was because they were trying to write stories that in their mind was predictive. So they were trying to say, this is what we want. And a lot of the stuff they made is why it's all dystopian, and transhumanist and things like this. So it's not, I don't think that's at all crazy, because this goes back to what I was talking about before, how the art itself, beauty itself, has been gatekept. And for example, visual arts is all what matters the most is whether or not it is politically meaningful and in the way that they believe. So it can't be transcendent. It has to be earthly. Anything that there's something wrong with it, or it's old hat, or it's old fashioned, or whatever. So if you make, for example, icons, as a self-admitted Orthodox Christian, we revere icons, we greet them when we enter the church, and they're made a specific way, and there is beauty in the way they're arranged, in that is symbolic. It goes into some in-depth stuff, but it's supposed to be a divine say example, just like human beings. So we are all
right
in the Orthodox faith, we are all icons of Christ. So we are all icons like Christ, okay? And so we see that in each other. And so if you uglify everything, then you're getting away from the truth. And the truth is that the world is beautiful. It was made, it was made this way, if you believe in creation, whatever. And that is so that we don't forget it. So the opposite of that would be a more Gnostic view, where it's the world is actually a prison. The world is evil. The world is where we need to escape from. That's how come you get people who want to change their gender, or you get people that want to upload their consciousness to a machine or something, because they feel imprisoned here. And it's no, this isn't a prison.
Right.
This is our home, right?
The irony is those people who want to upload their consciousness to a machine here in the particle state are the ones who are actually creating the prison. And
yes,
ultimately, to me, like the weird thing about all this, I'm gonna go into the wushu for a second, because we're kind of we're right at that point. With where we're seeing all these science fiction movies, everybody always talks about why are they so contrived? Why is it such a bad story? And it's like, well, because like you were saying, we are manifestations of God. We are reinforcements of an energy that is divine, and it's being reinforced and imprinted in the concentration of the particle state. And so like the idea of uglifying it all and getting everybody separated from that is to kind of like, keep us from our more eternal, kind of expression and keep us trapped in these more manifested.
Yeah. It's to demoralize.
Right. And so like, because I myself, like, I believe in the quantum entangled state of the multifaceted state of reality, in that all this stuff that is happening is specifically the battle between good and evil. And like,
yep,
we're seeing it chronologically. It's 2024 to us, but this thing has been going for time and eternity, and we are just in one of the many facets of reality that is upon to the expression of what is at stake. And so like you can think about it in theoretical terms, like, because whether or not what I'm saying is actually legitimate or not, whether there are an infinite number of physical versions of John and there's only one eternal conscious soul, and all those variations of me all go out through their lives and they gain experiences, that one eternal consciousness gains all the information, all the experience from all those manifested aspects, is my belief, in the concept that I believe that God is beyond any one dimension. So God doesn't just see through God's eyes, as you were saying. We are the manifestations of God, and that's why God walks with you. That's how the system of forgiveness and judgment is just part of being a supernatural being in the supernatural state of reality. Now, when you go and say, we're going to find a way to subvert that and keep everyone here in a life extended state that avoids ultimate forgiveness and judgment, well, then what you're ultimately talking about is the battle between good and evil, and the power of, God versus, the devil, or whatever you want to call it. And for me, ultimately, I try to think these things more of a faith-based kind of aspect, where it's like, whatever you call it is what you call it. But ultimately, we're all referring to a lot of the same things, because whether we want to, believe it or not, like, I feel that as we go through life, we feel as though we are making the choices, and in these various manifestations, it has to feel like that, because if we didn't have quote unquote free will, what would be the point of it all? But ultimately, in the multifaceted state of reality, if the quantum entanglement state exists as I'm speaking about, then it would very much be a fatalistic destiny, that all destinations lead towards the center ultimately. And that's why everyone is together in heaven, in paradise. Everyone's there. Everyone, unless those who don't wish to attend the party, because the reservation is granted to everyone. The gift is, and it's on you to accept or not. So the only way that you're not getting there is if you're not accepting. And a lot of people either do that through like spiritual damnation, I don't want to be there, whatever, beyond this life. But then there's even like the people that are more repugnant and stuck here, that are doing everything they can to profiteer and make it about a system of greed and like, like who's on top and like what is all this stuff. And
exploitation.
And that's right.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
well, I think I should bring it. We should bring it back to Robert Downey Jr. Right? But no, I mean, I think that ultimately most of what I'm saying is that most of this uglification of everything is to demoralize people, and also to make it to where you can't tell the difference between right and wrong or good and evil. And this is basically what allows evil to thrive. And so we have to point this stuff out, and it starts with our stories. And this is why, by the way, most of the modern stories we're getting right now are all about, making everything into shades of gray, or literally inverting, the actual like good and evil paradigm, so that evil is now good and good is now evil. And it's funny too, because that was written about in the Bible. Right? Woe to thee who calls good evil and evil good, something to that effect. So it is something that we're seeing play out, and it matters because stories are how we it's basically how we share wisdom with each other. It's how we we interpret the world. It's also how we think. Like when we talk to each other, we're not just speaking. Hopefully, we are also listening, which means we're thinking. So this communication is a way of thinking. Knowing what words that we need to use is important. This is why having control over the vocabulary is of such importance to these people, and that's why they want to control what words you can use, what words you should use, and what words they can use on you to affect your behavior. And you have to like shake out of that. So anyway, I want to go to. I just want to give a quick comment about this casting choice. I don't know how I'm going to segue into that, but we're just going to talk about it and pretend like there was a really clever segue there. But I just want to point out for this. So this is from That Park Place, and this is a thing that I think is going to be a really big challenge. And I don't know that the people involved with this have any interest in actually taking this on. Okay, so Robert Downey Jr.
Your witty transition.
Okay.
Seeing as how we're all doomed, let's talk about.
That's pretty good.
There we go.
But anyway, okay. So okay. Here's the thing. Obviously, this is a bit of a desperation to be like, we got to bring back the guy who put us on the map, and hopefully this will change that. And that's true. I don't think it's going to work out for them. We'll see. But then there's another thing too. This is actually going to be potentially extremely canon breaking for the comics. Now, I'm sure Marvel doesn't care about this at this point. Disney doesn't give a shit about that. But I'm just going to point out that Victor Von Doom is not Tony Stark. So I don't know if RDJ is playing Victor Von Doom and this just happens to be the same actor, or if he is like some parallel universe version of Tony Stark that became evil in some parallel world, which is what I suspect they're going to do. That means there won't be a Victor Von Doom, right? Which also doesn't make sense because in the original story for the Fantastic Four, the relationship between Reed Richards and Doom is like central. Like that they were both in college together or something. And, Dr. Doom was like really competitive and he like messed his face up trying to prove he was better. Right?
It's a story of the rabbit versus the tortoise, so to speak. Doom wanted all the glory and all the stuff immediately, and even though he's got like high-minded ideals and everything like that, he's a narcissist, whereas Reed is knowledgeable and he's well studied. It's once again, you're dealing with a wizard versus a sorcerer. So Reed is a wizard. He's constantly learning more and trying to like improve and do all the stuff. Whereas Doom is, just he wants to be the guy who saves everyone. He wants, and all this kind of stuff. It's constantly central to Doom. But with what they're doing, there is, everything is leading to Secret Wars ultimately. And so I think that we're probably looking at Iron Man versus.
But didn't they already do Secret War? Wasn't that the one with the Skrulls? They would have to like rebrand it, right?
Well, that was Secret Invasion.
Oh, you're right. That's true. You're right.
So and so Secret Wars is going to be the thing that they're going to use to ultimately get onto a quote unquote singular timeline. I believe.
Yeah.
They're going to say that everything goes through this incursion shit. So
yeah. Well, I think they're kind of like they kind of imply that a little bit with this Deadpool movie. But okay, so we have this problem. Victor Von Doom is not Tony Stark. Now, that doesn't mean that RDJ couldn't play Doctor Doom, just play Doctor Doom, because he's a really diverse actor. He's played lots of really great roles. Tropic Thunder being my favorite. That's what I want. I want Kirk Lazarus as Doctor Doom.
Right. Yes.
but we just might as well just get really silly with it. I think that'd be great. He takes the mask off and it's like, I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. But
given how much money they made this last weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just every movie's going to be that, just cameo and parody bullshit.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's probably what they're gonna do. They could play it straight and do it well, but I feel like they're just using the star power to cash in, and it's gonna be canon breaking because either, like I said, I don't see how they're gonna make it work. So, but I
literally. Well, I was gonna say, I think they were just, in the investors meetings, and they were just kind of saying, well, who can we get that will get some buzz going, because that's what the world. Unfortunately, we live in a stupid world that does everything superficially, and so like money doesn't even mean anything other than like debasement anymore, and so like they're constantly making more of it and like making us all like bigger and bigger, like surfs by the day, and so it makes it really easy for him to just kind of be like, well, since money doesn't matter, and the more that we kind of like do this wealth consolidation scheme, the less it matters. We just need to like find ways to keep the money flowing, and so like that's where I think you get a casting like this, because it's like, well, if they cast anybody else, nobody be talking about it right now. No, and like so like
absolutely, yeah. Who could they possibly cast that would have the same draw? There'd be nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. It's like they're in a point of desperation. That's why I mean this is a desperation hire, because they're like, well, we got to get some kind of buzz. We've got like this little bit of goodwill. What can we do to push it over the line? And if it had been anybody else than RDJ after the past 4 or 5 years of nonstop, calamitous, just fuckery on every step they took, they stepped on a rake, and so they just went right back to like the one last. What was the last time we didn't step on a rake? Oh, let's do that.
way back before we like way back. We're gonna go all the way back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I cringed when I heard about it, and it reminds me. I remember once. Robert Downey Jr. was on the Joe Rogan podcast. This was around the time that the MCU was spiraling. But he wasn't on there to talk about that because, he had done some other projects. Like, I liked his Sherlock Holmes movies, for example. I like Guy Ritchie mostly. So, I thought the Sherlock Holmes movies were good. But then he just came out with that Doolittle, which nobody watched, sadly. It probably wasn't as bad as, like, people say, but I don't know. I never saw it. And he was on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan just was like pressuring him to go back to being Iron Man. They're like, dude, man, you can't be dead. You have to go back and play him again. And he was like, no. And at the time, Robert was pretty much set, like, you know what? I did that. It's behind me now. I want to do other stuff. And so they must have thrown a lot of money at him for him to come back. So and I feel like he's gonna be. I feel like he might just be phoning it in unless they do something good with it, because like the talent that the MCU has wasted, especially like post Infinity War, because I actually Endgame I didn't love it. I had problems with it, but the extent to which there have been extremely talented people wasted, like one that comes to mind is Christian Bale. When I don't even remember the character he played, he was in that Thor movie I didn't watch, and I was like, Christian Bale's great. Like, he's a great actor.
The God Killer.
Wait, Chris Gore?
just Gore. Yeah.
I'm just Gore. Yeah, Gore the God.
Hail Chris Gore.
Shout out to Chris Gore. But yeah, and it was just I didn't watch it, but I was like, I know that this movie. Like, there's just they put good people and they waste them, and I think it always happens. So yeah, that's a very Christian Bale. What a waste, man. What a shame. But anyway, so like, and Patrick Stewart too. Like, he was like in, what was it? The Multi Madness Mom.
Yeah. Strange Mom.
Yeah, Strange Mom. Yeah, and again, wasted opportunity. These are if you watch X2, which was the second X-Men movie that came out, the Bryan Singer one.
20
Patrick Stewart is so good in that. Like when I saw him in the first movie, I was like, yes, this guy was meant to play this character, you know?
Right.
Like, and he did it really well. And look, these are superhero movies. They don't have to be fucking Academy Award nominees. I'm okay with them just being popcorn flicks as long as, again, the central like narrative of right versus wrong, good versus evil is there, because we don't all have to watch War and Peace every time we go to a theater. Sometimes it's okay that it's something silly and fun, you know. And I think that, but you can also, you know, do your best too. And I think that back then they did a lot of times. I think the X-Men movies still hold up.
Oh, dude, X2 is like
X2,
that is one of the X2 is one of the greatest movies ever made. Not just you know, not just comic book movies, but it's like actual legitimately just great movie in terms of its structure and like everything that it's getting across, and like, you know, like the stuff about teamwork and like, you know, like finding family and all this kind, like there's a lot going on in that movie, and it all is just doing exactly what it needs to do, you know. And that was before they even, you know, that was back in the days when they cover everybody in black leather, and like it was just kind of like it's more X-Men, you know, in spirit than it was in the skin. And then you kind of see like, you know, the reverse of that, you know, when we have more technology in place and all this kind of stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, well, we can make it look as much like the thing as it was, but the heart and soul of it has now been stripped away. So, you know, it's like, can we just find like a good balancing point where it's just kind of, you know, a little bit of everything, you know, like, you know, completely just selling it on, oh, you have to know all this, this, and this, and this, and bring the story and just show up to give us money. And it doesn't also have to be like, I want to be indoctrinated. Like, there can be some give and take. Let me come in as a fan, but also show me something that I'll actually appreciate showing. And the nice thing about these things being comic book movies is the comic books are storyboards. So they really don't even have to, like, you know, search for stories. And that's why
one would think, but they don't, like, only a few times have they actually looked to the comic books as an inspiration to draw from.
Right.
I think the best example is Sin City. You ever see Sin City? It's not a superhero comic, but it's like the Frank Miller sort of film noir comic book. And Robert Rodriguez it was, you know, you could say it was a bit gimmicky, like the way that he used black and white and color, but it was really well done. I think that to me, like, if you're a person who wants to see your favorite comic book sort of like made into a film, I think that's how you do it. Like, it doesn't have to be reinventing the wheel. A lot of the work has already been done. Like, can you imagine if somebody actually did, like, say, adapted, I don't know, like part of the Frank Miller run of Daredevil and just made that into a movie? I mean, the show on Netflix, which was awesome, I think it did kind of draw from that a bit because it had the ninjas and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think the work has been done. Another movie that I think was treated the same way was 300, which was also based on a comic book. I never read the book, but I understand that Zack Snyder was drawing. And that, by the way, Zack Snyder's probably one of his best films, only because everything after that has been pretty lackluster. In my opinion, I wasn't a big fan of Batman v Superman or Man of Steel. I thought that they were extremely, like, mopey, nihilistic, and amoral films. That he wasn't, like, if you're adapting Superman, that, you know, you can't beat around the bush and be like, my Superman kills people. It's like, no, that's not how this works.
I have not been able to watch an entire Zack Snyder movie from beginning to end since Man of Steel.
Yeah. No, I think I watched...
That's how long ago I gave up on Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I watched Man of Steel, but I was pissed off. I was like, this isn't Christopher Reeve. And the thing is, I think Henry Cavill wants to do that character justice, but I think that he's just got the wrong people in his team.
Oh, he's handcuffed. He's shackled by people that know nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Or people who just think they can tell you how to do things, you know, like, Again, I remember Zack Snyder saying that he thinks that Superman and Batman should kill people. So and he just thinks well, that's just realistic, and it's like, yeah, but comic books aren't supposed to be realistic.
Right. There's this thing about like, I don't know, like hope and like.
I mean, what? Like, yeah, right. Like, what about having like a moral compass? Yeah, right.
Would you need that?
Again, yeah, I do think it's ultimately a very materialistic and nihilistic worldview. Great Endor says, "R.I.P. Brittany Murphy." Yeah, what a shame. What a shame. She was adorable too.
I really miss her work in King of the Hill.
King of the Hill. That's right. She was the what's her name?
She was married to Tom Petty.
Yes. Yeah.
Who was the last person to die like a real rock star? I love Tom Petty. I will celebrate his music every day of my life. But the fact that he was actually able to die from a cocaine overdose is just like seals that rock star status like nobody else. Because nobody does that anymore.
He must have took a dare. I dare you to die of a cocaine overdose, said Keith Richards.
Right. I just think that he was truly the last DJ, just like the song says. He he had to do it the right way. Real rock legends.
So I want to just quickly comment on Deadpool and Wolverine. So Deadpool Wolverine made $444 million globally as of yesterday. I don't know if that number has gone up, but it looks like they're coming up on $500 million, which is very successful. Let's see, compared to Avengers Endgame's 357 million global, around this, I guess, in the same amount of time that it released. Spider-Man No Way Home's 260 million, Infinity War's 257 million, The Force Awakens at 247 million, and The Last Jedi at 220 million. So it's beating all of those. And I think that what you think about the film aside, because I haven't seen it, I don't know. But what I think is, what it's saying is that there is still an audience willing to watch stuff as long as they think that it's going to be good. And one thing that they want to see is like their favorite iconic characters on the screen. And they want to see them represented as faithfully as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if Hugh Jackman wearing the blue and yellow suit sold like a bunch of those tickets alone. It's just the faithfulness and respect to the fan base, regardless of what the content is, because I don't know,
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, and I might be biased in saying this, but I think that the world is just calling out for some problematic white guys to come take care of some issues and just have a good time.
That's what I think it is too.
They went and did.
Yeah, they're just like, give me the white guys. That's what I think. And they did, because like, look at, what was it? Top Gun Maverick. I mean, it was a pretty good movie, but it made a lot of money, and they were just like, look, I just want Maverick. Like, that's it. Like, they're like, I don't care about like the non-binary, disabled, trans Muslim woman.
Right. As soon as I get out of the theater, I'll go back to living in a bubble, because that was during Hell World times.
Yeah, right.
For like these 2 hours, can I just go watch some people like fly around in jets and like shoot at each other?
Yeah, can we just have some dogfights, or like that Mission Impossible, what was it, that last one? Dead Reckoning Part 1?
Too long named. Yes.
Yeah, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I don't know when the sequel's coming out. They're supposed to finish that, but again, it was the same thing. We just want Ethan Hunt. We want Tom Cruise running and like doing crazy shit in his 50s and accomplishing a mission. Like, that's it. We don't want it. We don't want to get preached at. And I think that's why it's basically the bar to make money in theaters is so low now. You just have to put white people in it. And then people will go. I don't care. I'm just gonna go watch it, because my understanding is the plot is kind of nonsense. There's a lot of time travel, and there's a lot of cameos, and there's a lot of like nods to like older Marvel properties. Like Wesley Snipes makes a cameo as Blade in this, which I think that's kind of awesome. I'm not gonna lie. because like I always felt that Wesley Snipes deserved to be Blade again.
Yeah, I mean, he is Blade, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
the OG Marvel superhero. Then that's
Yeah,
why I always
he's-
laughing, like, you know, like I hear all this diversity bullshit. It's like, Blade, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah, well, they always
made that
pretend
movie
like
back in 1998,
I know they always
99,
pretend
you
like
know?
that shit didn't happen. You know.
right?
Big Rat Killer
Consider
says
this stuff a
Cruz
long time
is
ago.
Cruz is 62 now. What a maniac!
Yeah.
Is he on adrenochrome? Is that how is?
I mean, it's ethically sourced, you know, the Scientology method. You know, like they've got their own bleeder houses and everything.
Yeah.
So, it's okay.
I don't know what else it could be.
It's how you release your thetans and like, you know,
Yeah.
get rid of like the negativity. Allegedly. Don't sue me,
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. You were good in the movie.
All right. Anyway, so just you know, we'll see how it goes. Big Rat Killer says he's on everything money can possibly buy. Well, you can't take it with you, I guess.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean,
All right.
you know, I like to I like to think that he's not one of those life extension tech people, but hey, you know, we see these things play out. I mean, that's actually, isn't that what Scientology's religion is ultimately about? Again, don't sue me.
I honestly don't know. I didn't even watch Battlefield Earth to learn. So I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, not interested.
It has something to do with like an overlord alien kind of. They're kind of like reptilians, but not. I think.
Zemnu or something? Is that his name?
Yeah. Oh God, Xenu.
Xenu?
I don't know, but yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's very strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then again, like
The lore
in a Mormon.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah, I grew up as a Mormon, so like they were kind of like the original Scientology, you know, Scientology. So like I really don't have much room to speak in that regard. So yeah.
All right. Well, good luck to you, Tom Cruise. Just get that other half of the movie finished because I want to know, like, how the hell do you beat the AI? Because we might need to know that. I don't know. I feel like it might be useful to us
with each
pretty soon.
It does seem like the most salient lesson we should be learning.
Yeah, right. Could be handy. I don't know. So, anyway, good luck to, you know, hopefully this success of Deadpool and Wolverine will, you know, sort of show that like it's time to get back to basics. You know, in the 70s, and I may have brought this up before, and if I have, I apologize. But in the 1970s, we were having a really hard time as a country. You know, runaway inflation, Cold War was like, you know, there was all of this existential doom and gloom hanging over our head. President Carter was a vegetable. Sounds a lot like what's going on today. But yeah, but it's true. Like there is some, it does seem that way. And there's this one struggling actor that decided to write and direct his own film, Sylvester Stallone, and he made a movie called Rocky. He made a little film called Rocky, and it changed movies. It was like a massive success despite being a very small project that he literally filmed in Philadelphia. Like he didn't know sets or anything, from what I can tell. Very small budget, and it was a huge success. And it was simply a story of what? Of a man who doesn't have much going for him, doing his best and going the distance. He doesn't even win the fight. But the point is he goes the distance, right? Now this is my wife's favorite movie. I showed it to her like I don't know, like a year ago, and she's been pestering me lately. I want to watch Rocky again. And of course Rocky became a franchise. But if we're just looking at the first film, because it's a really great movie, I think that that's what we are looking for today. Like around that same time, we also got the original Superman film, which was something that people really wanted. So there is definitely a craving for some positive message, a masculine message, and a message of hope and perseverance. And so I think we're not there yet, but I think that we're going to get something like that, and we should be on the lookout for it. for. It's probably going to be an indie thing, but nonetheless, yeah, be on the lookout. And if you see something like that, let me know in the comments. Maybe there's something already out there. I don't know. I understand that there are some very good independent works out there. I understand that Godzilla Minus One, for example, is very good. I don't know if it's necessarily uplifting. I haven't seen it. But yeah, that's what people want, I think. That's what they're craving. And I think that's like, for example, there's a movie that everyone's talking about right now called Sound of Hope. And it's about I don't want to like get it wrong, but I believe it's based on a true story of a town that adopts like a bunch of children, that like fosters a bunch of children at once to save them. I can't remember the exact story, but it is essentially about a community stepping up for children. So it's not a sequel, but it's got a similar title to Sound of Freedom, which I watched.
Right.
It was the last thing I saw in the theater was that. But that was pretty solid. So anyway, so we got about a half hour left. Let's get through the last two things. Firstly, I want to go to this video from James O'Keefe. Speaking of Disney, what are they getting up to these days? So O'Keefe Media, this is 4 days ago. I haven't seen it yet, and it's not very long, so I thought we would give this a watch, and I'll pause it every so often so we can give our thoughts. So
last time in Disney Files 1, we got to take a deep dive into the internal communication channels at the Walt Disney Company, and what we found was shocking. Disney sanctioned workshops teaching young children the ways to be gay and trans, bulletin board for Disney employees into the poly swingers lifestyle, a series of Disney-sponsored pride parades complete with naked men on bicycles, and that's just the beginning. In Disney Files 2, we're going to dig even deeper into the twisted agenda that Disney is pushing at children around the world. In particular, we'll look at Disney's propensity to push their trans agenda via the gender-affirming care policies and LGBTQ propaganda videos that blatantly instruct upper-level managers how to coddle and encourage their LGBTQ employees. First, let's start with Disney internal health care policies that allow Disney employees to access gender-affirming care, aka trans surgery, as part of their medical plans. Now, on your screen, you can clearly see that Disney offers multiple ways for their employees and their families to seek what is essentially genital mutilation through their various health insurance plans, through their providers that include Kaiser, HMSA, Advent Healthcare, and Orlando Health Cast Advantage. I want to remind the viewers that Disney makes the majority of their sales from theme park attendance and film and television viewership. If you are a Disney customer and or shareholder, you've probably been shielded to the fact that your money is being used to pay for medical plans that actually promote for trans genital mutilation surgeries for their employees. Disney employees. Why?
okay, I'm just pausing there for a moment. There was something I wanted to mention that I meant to bring this up before that I think is really interesting. So Disney as a brand, okay, is aimed essentially at families and children in particular, but families. All of their theme parks, their entertainment, content, etc. Right? And here's the thing that's kind of an interesting that I was just thinking about. Okay. So LGBTQ ideology, queer theory, is antinatalist at its very root, which means it's anti-family, right? And how that expresses itself is that firstly it promotes or even prioritizes non-heterosexual relationships. Now, nothing wrong with people that are not heterosexual. I'm not telling you what you should be or not be, but they promote it as though it can be socialized into people. So this kind of goes against the whole like born this way argument that we've heard for a long time, which is kind of weird. But more than that, though, it results in people not having children because two women and two men can't have children by normal means. They'd have to like go to, sperm banks or surrogacy or whatever. And on my work over at Honey Badger Radio, one of the things that we have talked about is that this is just a fact. I'm not making an argument for or against. Freezing your eggs and freezing your sperm, most of those fail. So it's not really a good insurance plan to freeze your eggs. 80% of eggs frozen do not end up being incubated. So there's a very high failure rate in that regard. So if you're a lesbian, for example, and you're like, I want a kid, but obviously I don't want to be impregnated by a man, so I'm going to freeze my eggs and then I'll artificially inseminate them later. Or if you are, or whatever it is, right? You're not likely going to result in kids, which means that ultimately the best way to ensure that you will have kids is to actually form a heterosexual union with the opposite sex and make babies the old-fashioned way. Not saying that's like, I'm just telling you the way it is. This is the data as it stands. So Disney is promoting ideologies against reproduction and against kids, and also castrating people, essentially, right? Making them unable to have kids. Now, what does that do? Now, birth rates are low, okay? They're on the decline. Birth rates all over the country. In fact, birth rates globally are down. So what does it mean if you are a company that has a customer base that is families and children? Like, your company is on borrowed time, right? So like I noticed that people have been making videos, for example, about how bad toy sales are, right, for various intellectual properties. When I was a kid, if you were into toys as a boy, there were plenty of options. You had Star Wars toys and He-Man toys and G.I. Joes and all that. And it didn't really slow down until relatively recently. Now, not only is it because kids are generally like playing on their tablets and phones instead of with actual physical toys, but there are fewer kids. And that number is going down. There are fewer and fewer children. So what then should a company like Disney do to adapt to that? How do they stay with the times? Because it's like they can't really continue to make content aimed at children, and they can't produce because children are vanishing. Like, there are fewer and fewer of them, right? So I just think it's maybe this queering of the child agenda is one of the ways that they stay relevant. And also turning. Go ahead.
Well, I'll let you finish your point.
Also, the other thing I was going to say is that keeping adults in a state of adolescence is also a big part of it too, because if you look at videos of people who go to Disney theme parks, they're all it's like grown ass women mostly. And they're going to theme parks and they're living out their Disney dreams. And so they're basically in a perpetual state of adolescence, sort of. And that's why I think a lot of these people end up, trying to like change the direction of Disney. That's why a lot of the stuff gets sexualized, because you have adults essentially participating in children's content.
Right. So it's very much like the movie, or not even necessarily the movie, just the Pinocchio. And right now we're all on the island, being led astray, being turned into jackasses. And and that's kind of what the whole purpose is for, is to just kind of like make us lesser, to and the whole idea of like getting away from, like it's like they used to say, the economics is supply and demand. If you want to have more supply, then you need to find a way to reduce your demand. And so that's the world that we're living in, like right now. Like, you think about like what all this stuff comes down to, like what are wars, what are any of this stuff? It's always about resources. And so, when you look at the state of reality being what it is, with all the profiteering kind of robber baron, energy that's in play for people who have a stake in what the world is, I think that they're, like there's a reason why they call us useless eaters and they want to get us out of the way, is because ultimately they want what they want, and they find us to be an obstacle. And if you can exploit a willing contingent in the population to also extend your reach to your ultimate goal, which is the life extension technology, because that's the thing, is like transhumanism is the end of all humanity.
Mm-hmm.
End of, and that's it. And the steps to getting to full on transhumanism is through transgenderism as this, and that's what this point in history is about, is this is creating the gap so that they can try to normalize all this stuff that's ultimately about, depopulation efforts and making synthetic people, or people that are born from test tubes that are genetically modified. And so all this stuff is about corrupting the manifestation of God, quite literally, in utero, and trying to get it so that the very aspect of creation is not even in the realm of God anymore, and under the, under the dictates of man. And that's ultimately because they are likely being possessed by high-end demonic forces that they don't even begin to comprehend, let alone understand or, believe in half the time. So, like, you can really be taken advantage of when you don't think that there's anything to be taken advantage of by, and so like, that's, I think what we're seeing play out is just people being seduced by the darkness, and it's playing out in all of its many forms. And, in this part of the timeline, it's gender identity, it's identity crisis and all this kind of stuff, because, if we can keep people in this heightened state of just emotion and all that kind of stuff, like they feed off that kind of stuff too. And like, like we're dealing with ostensibly like emotional vampires that also, use high-end technology to, like you were talking about earlier, the stuff with adrenochrome. They also do UVBIs, which are ultraviolet blood infusions, where they basically cycle your blood out and kill all the impurities in it and put it back in. When I worked as a worked in the doctor's office, the holistic naturalistic doctor's office, that was one of the procedures that we had. And like many rich people get their blood cycled all the time, because it's not the years, it's the mileage. And if you can keep your body energetically young, because we are divine beings of energy and light, we're eternal. And so the more that you can keep your tissues young and youthful and slower in that decay rate, that's really what it's all about. And if you can't do that, then you need to have technologies that will somehow make up for that loss. And that's, I think, what they're trying to work towards in this idea of like a spiritual switchboard of, like that movie, the series, what was it? The movie was Free Jack, but Altered Carbon, where the whole idea is like, like you exist, and if you have the money to pay for it, you can have any body, quite literally, that you can afford, and so like that's kind of, I mean, that's not where reality is, but that is where reality is headed. That's at least where it's focused. That's what the science fiction is telling us. And the science fiction is, quite honestly, like I said earlier, it's the leader on where we're going with the actual legitimate science. So,
it's psychic vampires.
Is it more?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. I had an Alex Jones clip.
You employed Alex Jones.
Yeah.
I will eat your ass.
All right, let's look at more of this. No, it was a clip of him saying it's psychic vampires feeding on the kids, something like that. So, all right, let's listen to more of this.
Why is Disney using your money to chop off or building on additions to their genitals? Is turning their employees into transgender seriously a part of their business model? Now, our OMG investigative team continued to...
Have you ever seen... I saw on Twitter, and I regret it, but there are certain people that are very proud of this. Have you ever seen a photo of a trans man's fake penis? Have you ever seen it?
The knot hole in the tree.
No, where they make it out of like flesh from their arm or leg, and they build a penis out of it.
Yeah, that's very strange stuff.
I'm sorry, but it's
horrifying.
It's so dark, dude. It's so dark. It's like, what have you done? And they're like it looks like Frankenstein's monster, and of course, because they're trans men, they think, oh, I'm gonna have like the biggest fake penis I can. I have this big, soft, fleshy like piece of arm. It looks nightmarish, dude. It's nightmarish. I'm sorry, that's just not right. But anyway, let's
it's the Model T of synthetic
yeah, I guess so.
penises. Okay, so like, in 50 years,
it's more like one of those Leonardo da Vinci drawings of like what.
Right. Well, yeah, like, especially in terms of like what he knew about the woman's anatomy.
Yeah, it's the ornithopter of fake penises. But okay.
Work its way through Disney's tangled web of internal communication networks and came across this gem. The video is called Disney GET. What is GET, you may ask? Well, Disney GET stands for Gender, Expression, and Transitioning, and I'm about to show it to you. In today's rapidly evolving healthcare...
Let me skip his ad here.
Indeed.
Is it right here?
Medications, personal protective equipment, or other essentials.
Sorry, this goes on for a while, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, there is a lot of
evidence. Yeah.
Keep in mind that the Disney GET video you're about to watch consists of Disney employees,
yeah,
for lack of better words, coaching their other coworkers how to cheer, lead, and encourage their coworkers who are transitioning. The video goes on to tell employees that to support them, you need to conform to their wants. This is a tape that I can almost guarantee Disney executives do not want you to see. Roll the tape.
Oh boy.
A colleague who's transitioning, listen to what they're asking of you and show in your actions that you heard them.
Recuerde siempre que el camino de una persona es suya y no
Always remember that a person's path is theirs and not yours.
suya.
Let them talk, let them do what they want to do, and if they talk to you about that, it means like they're like comfortable.
One way to be a good ally to your transgender and non-binary cast members is to use the pronoun and name they have given you.
Meet them where they are, ask how they need support, and actively listen to what they need to be successful in their role and in their life.
It's important to be humble because you're going to mess up. Everybody messes up, and what's important is what you do next.
Is that a new playable character for Concord? Sorry. Okay.
If you have any doubts,
these are all like very interesting characters.
Yes, yes. I think this might just be a woman, but I don't want to assume. So
it is 2024. How dare you even assume to assume?
Yeah, I wouldn't even presume to begin to examine myself to figure out if I can start to make a claim about what I'm looking at. Do not believe your lying eyes and ears. So, all right, let's keep going.
ask. You can ask how they want to be identified as.
I just hear
what the
the
pronouns
line
are.
from Obi-Wan Kenobi. You've done this to yourself. It's echoing through me.
Report of the week needs to get a haircut. Yeah.
Don't let your fear of messing up, either using the correct pronouns or using the correct name, to offset you from trying.
Eu os convido para ser nosso aliado.
You don't have to be LGBTQIA+ to hold our hands. Holding hands is degenerate.
Não precisa ser LGBT, QIAP+, para segurar as nossas mãos.
You don't.
I will not.
Disney, definitely. You're right.
Oh my god, look at this.
It's okay not to know. But use the resources available, such as this website, for you to help educate yourself on what your colleague is going through and how you can be there for them.
In that Disney GET video, you can clearly
the appropriately ethnically beige people to tell me what I should be thinking.
I like how they threw a variety. Like this is so like obviously manufactured. Like they were like, let's give them, and they probably did the math. Like, okay, we need this many trans people, this many non-binary people, this many people of color, and then we'll arrange them like this, and then we'll put them on, and they'll all make these really like lame, wishy-washy, bumper sticker statements. Just listen to them and like, don't be judgmental, and it's okay to share your thoughts. But it's like, no. That's not how this works. This is going to be a struggle session. That's what this is going to be.
Is they put more time, effort, and craft and care into their own internal propaganda than they do into the movies that they just drop on.
Yeah, right. No, they do. But I mean, if they made their movies like this, like, they would absolutely fail. They're failing,
right.
But
right. Because they are in this spirit.
Yeah,
they're not so like hard. Like, and this is like if Disney was able to just say what they wanted in the movies. That's what it be. Is this propaganda? These are the
for
things.
sure.
They're internal.
For sure.
So yeah, we get a commercial version of that for consumers. But this is when they are going to church. This is the hymn book that they're singing.
Absolutely. This is the church is in session.
You see that these Disney employees are not only recommending you do those actions, but almost telling their teammates they need to take those actions. Why are they so demanding? What if you said you don't agree with their positions at Disney on conforming to these LGBTQ demands? Well, that's something we'll reveal in Disney Files Part 3. In this Disney Files series, it is clear that within the Walt Disney Company, we are seeing what appears to be a complete woke overhaul of the once pristine Disney brand. In addition to the Disney GET video buried deep within the Disney internal communication apparatus, our investigative reporters, with the help of a brave whistleblower inside Disney, that's right, we have people inside Disney working for us, discovered an internal document showcasing what is likely one of their prized crown jewels in their LGBTQ pride achievements. And they call it the Disney Pride Think Tank. We're going to show you the document that outlines the Disney Pride Think Tank, and what you're about to see is a document that Disney has purposely been hiding from the public. The question is, why are they hiding this from the public if they're not ashamed of it? In the document, the Disney Pride Think Tank and their employee resource group states, quote, the Disney Pride Business Employee Resource Group, that's BERG acronym, is proud to introduce the Disney Pride Think Tank. We are a global employee collective from across the enterprise with a passion to advance LGBTQ+ representation in our content, products, experiences, and services. By providing our expertise, perspectives, and ingenuity to the business, we seek to identify new opportunities. Their two main areas of mission are content and the marketplace. Now, as you scroll through the document, you can actually see a picture with gay Mickeys. And what the Disney Pride Think Tank is trying to accomplish is, quote,
hey, remember when the rainbow was just the rainbow? Remember that?
Right.
Does anybody remember that?
Forgiveness.
It was literally like, what was it at the end of when the flood ends?
Yeah.
And Noah's and Noah is on the ark, and they know that the storm is over, and then there's a rainbow that tells them that God says it's over now, right? That's what it used to mean. Like, I mean, at least like biblically speaking. But the rainbow is not.
It means that the storm has just begun. It's
right.
Backwards.
But also, like, when I was a kid, rainbows were very popular with children. This is another reason why I find the rainbow concerning. I'm just saying. Just saying. Like, when the fact that James O'Keefe says these are gay Mickeys, and I don't think he's wrong, because I know that the rainbow has taken on a whole new meaning. But it just goes to show, like, where that automatic, he has the automatic programming of like seeing a rainbow and thinking pride, not, like the sun being like refracted through mist in the air, creating a rainbow. Like, it's not even the scientific explanation. It's just a religious one, albeit the religion of queer ideology or Marxist ideology. So he's saying gay Mickeys, and they're just Mickeys with rainbows on them. But we know that he's right. We know that he's right.
Right. Well, it's because they're co-opting, because light is a spectrum, right? And so are autistic people. And so, like, I think that's ultimately is kind of what a lot of this stuff is like, like it's preying upon iPod or iPad kids and the this and the that that we've created through all this new technology over the course of the last few decades, where they're highly exploitable and easily, kind of manipulated because of their naivety and, their kind of existence in this culture that, does put it on the shiny and the this and that. Like, the stories that they try to tell to corrupt people as to what is more important than the actual experience we have here. And it is no mistake that they go and make a rainbow colored Mickey, because it's like the term, what they call them, well, obviously Pride Month is a false flag attack, but it's also a color revolution. And it's not just a color revolution, it's that, like I said, it's that spectrum, the whole rainbow of reason, autists and what have yous, all just kind of like, coming at you full bore and undermining everything. Like I said, now the rainbow means that the storm has only just begun.
Yeah.
So,
and it is true that there is a disproportionate a disproportionate percentage of, say, people who are autistic tend to transition. So like a lot of people who end up transitioning are on the spectrum. So and I think it's being used to exploit them, to make them transition.
Again, that's that whole thing about reinforcement and dark magic. You use a spectrum of light on a spectrum of people, so on, so forth. Reinforce the various levels of manifestation. That's what we're seeing playing out. That's why when people say, "I can't believe this has happened," it's like you don't understand that 2 + 2 = 4. It's like, when you do this much investment, what'd you think was going to be the payout? You create a trash society and all of a sudden everything falls apart. Imagine.
Yep.
How'd that happen? It's almost like playing.
All right. Yep. Okay, there's a little left. Let's play the rest.
Yep.
Supporting the development of impactful solutions to engage the LGBTQ+ consumer across consumer products, games, marketing, services, and media platforms. Disney is pushing this through something they internally call the, quote, Marketplace Committee and Creative Content Review Committee. In the Creative Content Review Committee, they aim to support all content creators within TV, film, animation, creative marketing, and publishing by providing feedback at any step in the creative development process: scripts, character design, animation, episode, movie rough cuts. As you can see, the pictures they have below are shows with homosexual characters in them. Now, here at O'Keefe Media Group, while investigating Disney, we have seen how they are essentially saying their employees either conform to this agenda or they will be outcast. For example, look at what Disney is secretly showing about different cultures with Mickey logos. Here's what the design team at Disney made, and as you can see, they have Muslim Mickey.
Let's look at these really quick. So we got
Muslim Mickey.
Yeah, Muslim Mickey. Wait, I think, do I have the guy? Wait. No, it's okay. There's like this meme of this Muslim man saying, "Ugh, brother, ugh." It's very funny, but Asian American Pacific Islander, it looks like they're basically just cutouts. It's the Disney Mickey Mouse silhouette, and through it you can see like the ocean and a flower. Then there's Black African American. I don't know why, but it's purple. I don't know what that means. Disabilities, which is it's a rainbow like on a wheelchair. Hispanic, Latinx. Please don't say Latinx. But yeah, Latinx, Jewish Mickey, because again, we need this now. LGBTQI Latinx, yeah. Multicultural Mickey, what does that even mean? We already have Black and Latin and Jew and Asian. So what is multicultural? Like just mixed? Mystery meat Mickey? Is that what that means? Muslim Mickey. Can you watch Disney movies in Islamic countries? I thought they had their own version or something. I'm not trying to be intolerant. I'm just asking questions. Native American, indigenous Mickey, veterans and military Mickey, okay, and women Mickey.
All right.
Why?
Also known as Minnie Mouse.
Yeah, right. Women.
I mean,
it's like what? See, this is what I'm saying. Like, what does any of this have to do with kids or family? What does any of this have to do with children?
a marketing major named Blair who gets paid $75,000 when she started, and now she's up to $200,000 a year. And that's what this is about, is her being able to keep her job and make everybody go along with this means nothing to the actual work that needs to be done in terms of you would like to think that making entertainment would be about entertaining, not lecturing, not all this.
Women are the most oppressed minority, guys. And if you're a woman that's also multicultural and Hispanic and disabled, you get 3-4 Mickeys. You get 4 Mickeys. All right, but anyway, so let's see what the point he's gonna make about this.
Black Mickey, Jewish Mickey, Native American Mickey. Do you notice anything unusual here? Well, they're missing Christian Mickey. As the rest of the stock market...
Yeah, but I don't think we need a Christian Mickey. Although, it's funny that he mentions that, because if you watch the old Disney films, the old ones, not the ones from the 90s, because actually those were pretty feminist. I know that people wouldn't get that, but if you look at Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid and Pocahontas and Mulan, those are pretty feminist. Even for that time,
way back then.
Yes, it was. That's right. But if you look at, I watched the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, and there is a scene where after Snow White cleans the dwarves' home while they're away. This is before she meets them. I think it's before or after. Then yeah, she cleans and then they show up and then they get to know each other and they do a dance and everything, and then the dwarves all go to sleep and Snow White prays for them. Now she doesn't make it a point to tell the audience I'm praying to the Christian God, but she does kneel at the bed and she puts her hands together and she looks up at the window where the moonlight is coming through, and she says a prayer for each of the dwarves and then goes to sleep. And it's a tiny little scene, right? It's ultimately, I think at the time, because Walt, he probably wasn't thinking we need this. He was probably just putting it in because it was probably normal. It was just a normal part of life. Yeah, for anyone. Yeah, for people to pray before bed. So without having, and then there's you ever see Fantasia? It's one of my favorite Disney movies.
Oh yeah,
you ever see
totally.
Fantasia? Yeah. So in
Magician's Assistant.
Yeah, so in Fantasia at the end, there's they do the Night on Bald Mountain and then Ave Maria. And those are the last two bits, right? And the Nine Ball Mountain is the what everybody knows. I love that song too, by the way. But with, where you have Lucifer or whoever is some demon, and he's got all the little demons dancing with him. And then the light comes and it drives him away to basically meld back with the mountain. And then Ave Maria plays, which is the last song of Fantasia. And it is, undeniably, it is Christian, but
yeah.
I guess the thing is that
nowadays they wouldn't anyways.
No, they wouldn't put that part in for sure. No, I think when they made
80 degrees reversed.
Well, they did change, because remember they made Fantasia 2000, and it was kind of their attempt at a sequel, but in a way, I think they were also trying to sort of rewrite history a little bit.
Secular. Yeah,
they did
more
because
secular and
they
just
did
kind of about like the animation and the yeah. They were trying to get rid of the actual what Fantasia was actually about.
Yeah. So what they did was, there was a Noah's Ark story in Fantasia 2000 with Donald Duck and Daisy Duck, and Donald Duck is Noah, and they had the animals and all that, but it did not have the same. It was just told like a story with a lot of humor in it and comedy, but no like it didn't have any like weight to it. And then the ending of Fantasia 2000 is actually more about like nature and the earth goddess. So it actually is more pagan at the end because you remember, you got like that nature fairy spirit girl, and she's like, and it's really well done, but she's like flying around and like creating the flowers and everything, and then like the lava hawk or whatever it is, like an eagle made out of lava, is chasing her around, and it's basically about like death and rebirth, and it's very like Gaia, sort of oriented.
Well, it's kind of funny, like, because people are so nostalgic to Disney, and they, it's that whole thing about what is seduction. It's not the woman in the red dress. Seduction is the guy who gets you to pay attention to the woman in the red dress. Seduction is very mundane, generally speaking. It's usually just about like compliance and getting you to go along with whatever they're trying to get over. That's why I'm trying to seduce you,
Yeah.
And so like everybody just looks at Disney like, Disney used to be the thing. Like when you and I were growing up, I didn't really have parents. I had, people that gave birth to me, and they would just sit me in front of the TV, and like, the TV was like the thing. And that's, for a large contingent of people, they're like, oh, well, we can trust Disney. But you couldn't, because they've been telling us the entire time, like, it's that whole thing about symbology and like hiding it right where people don't look, just putting it in the language of everything. They call it touchstone entertainment. A touchstone is, for pagan rituals. It's a magic kingdom. Everything that Disney ever tells you, if you go and strip it back, what are they actually saying? And it's like, much like, you have to invite the vampire in. The vampire can lie to you to get you to do that. And as long as you do that, it doesn't matter that the vampire lied. And so like that is Disney. They spent all this time seducing our society. And then when people got comfortable with it, that's when the actual darkness starts to flow through. So they were just priming everybody to get the lines hooked up. And now that they've got it, beaming into everyone directly, almost intravenously, now it's like, all right, turn on the sludge filter. Let's corrupt the living shit out of everyone and every living thing. So that's
all right.
The theme of today. Wow.
Seems to be. I guess there's a little left. I'll play the rest of it, and but all I will say is that like I think what I'm getting at is that Walt probably he already had like say a Christian belief system that was put into the stories, but he wasn't doing it for the purpose of propagandizing. He just saw it as reality. It was just like, I'm just putting this in.
Right.
And so like it came out like when in Sleeping Beauty, when Prince Philip faces Maleficent, and she says, that you're gonna face all of the the powers of hell, and then she turns to a dragon. I mean, like, I remember as a kid when she said that, I was like, holy shit, she's really evil. Now what's happened? Maleficent is actually a misunderstood tragic figure that was burned by a man. And she just wants, like, to be free and equal and stuff. Like, they totally went back on that. She was a demon. And Walt said, this is a demonic woman. She's going to turn to a dragon, which was symbolic of demons as well. And Prince Philip will slay the dragon with it was like as classic as it gets. So anyway, but he didn't have to get on a podium and preach it. He just told the story, and we understood intuitively that Maleficent was evil, and she would turn to a dragon, and Prince Philip had to slay her. So anyway,
the messages used to be clear. Sorcery and witchcraft are wrong. Wizardry actually kind of has like, something behind it. And
like Merlin,
it's like anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Merlin's, like because there are different forms of magic. Jesus was a magi. Like performing magical acts is, transcendent. It's part of the thing that actually helps us as a people. Just a couple of weeks ago, when we all watched a miraculous kind of event where a former president was not assassinated. Like that's miraculous, and people should you have to deal with things like that.
Yeah.
And it makes the world very weird when you go and try to say, oh well, there's no don't think about things in terms that are bigger than your comprehension, or where you'd actually have to be awestruck or kind of just reverent, if you will. That's not what they want from any of us. They want us to all just be pedestrian, superficial NPCs that don't even think about it. Just let it wash over you. Prepare for the next product.
Yeah. All right, let me play the rest of this.
Mickey. As the rest of the stock market is way up, on CEO Bob Iger's watch, Disney stock is down more than 30% over the past 5 years. It is truly amazing that over half a decade, Walt Disney's major push to go woke seems to be what is pushing them to head towards broke. Now stay tuned for Disney Files Part 3, and let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you're a brave insider like the person we're currently talking to inside Disney or Hollywood or media or basically anywhere else, because Lord knows everything is pretty much systemically corrupt at this point, please contact us at tips.
Yep, he's right. Everything is systemically corrupt. That's for sure.
Yeah. Is it wrong of me that I just want them to end by saying, and you can download the Disney files in these PDFs just below?
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it's because I think it would be great if they were just available. But I just generally
calling it a PDF file specific.
Yeah. I generally trust James O'Keefe. He's been pretty good. I haven't seen any reason not to as of yet. So
you can tell he's a guy of integrity when he's had two organizations corrupt themselves around him.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen the kind of people he's pissed off, and I think that this is glory. That's more evidence, in my opinion. So we'll wait until when the next Disney Files comes out. We'll do another show on it, because I think that, I don't know how much impact I'm having here, but I think these are important. So you sent me one thing, and I know we've gone over time, but it's okay. We'll cover this last thing, and then we'll wrap the show up.
Buttons it up.
I think this is true. Okay, so this is a tweet from Tenet Media, and it says here, quote, "As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes," end quote. Former teacher turned influencer infantilizes the white women for Kamala Harris and suggests that white women should never correct black women. Let's get educated here. This sounds like it's going to be a pure-on struggle session, but let's play it.
Oh, it's something.
Yeah.
Ariel Fodar, affectionately known as Mrs. Frazzle, to her combined audience of over 1.5 million followers, is here to help gentle parent us through this election.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am so honored to speak today. I am shaking to just be among such incredible company. We are here because...
Hold on. Is she talking to children? Because it seems like she's talking to
children. I know. She just comes in at 100.
Oh my God.
187.
Hello, everybody.
Wow, it's so fake. It's so saccharine. It's
oh my God.
To cringe for the next minute and a half. It is.
Okay. All right. Let's go back a little bit. These people have the right to vote, guys. Okay.
To her combined audience of over 1.5 million followers, is here to help gentle parent us through this election.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Oh God.
I am so honored to speak today. I am shaking to just be among such incredible company. We are here because, as if you were here earlier, you've heard BIPOC women have tapped us in as white women to step up, listen, and get involved this election season. This is a really important time, and we all need to use our voices and influence for the greater good, no matter who you are, You are all influencers in some way. So tonight, I'm going to share some do's and don'ts for getting involved in politics online and navigating the toxicity that comes with it.
Oh my God. You know what she reminds me of? Dolores Umbridge from the Harry Potter movie. So like the woman that was like really like
person.
No, she wears like she's like this is just it's killing me, dude. She makes me have to take a shit. Like that's how bad this is.
Yes.
It's basically this is basically diuretic, like visual diuretic.
She's like the mecca of woke white women.
Oh my God. Okay, we're gonna try and get through this.
And spoiler alert, as much as the toxicity can come from the outside, it can come from us too.
Oh my God. Okay. So what does she mean by toxicity? Well, firstly, men. Like that's it. Men who have opinions that have been rational and said, I think that Kamala Harris is very unpopular, for example, which she is. She got like no votes when she was trying to run as the primary candidate. She only became VP because Joe Biden chose her, and the only reason why Joe Biden chose her was because he needed to find a way to pander to his voting block of women and minorities. And so he was like, I'm going to choose a woman of color as my running mate. That's literally what it was. She has nothing to add to the conversation. Like literally, you have to imagine what can be unburdened by what has been. Like that's her whole campaign.
Indeed. May we all be unburdened. Jesus.
By what has been. Yes.
So first, don't isolate yourself. We can do our best work when we're in community together like we are tonight, because the toxic feels smaller when we support each other. But don't make it about yourself. As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOC individuals, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat. And instead, we can put our listening ears on.
Oh, God.
Just take a beat. And so instead,
and we can put on our listening ears, catch a bubble. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, my God.
This is not a real person talking. This is
white
construct.
White women. Are you actually listening to this? Like, do you want to do this?
Resonate?
Yeah, is this something that you do you feel like you're helping if you're doing this? Like, do you guys think for yourselves at all? Oh man. Okay.
I guess the reason that the voice sounds like a test pattern is because there's really nothing going on behind that signal.
Ukraine is a small country. Russia is a powerful country. All right.
So do learn from and amplify the voices of those who have been historically marginalized and use the privilege you have in order to push for systemic change. As white people, we have a lot to learn and unlearn. So do check your blind spots. You are responsible for your algorithm, believe it or not.
Dying a little
algorithm.
Yeah, you're responsible for your algorithm.
Oh, Jesus. I've never heard that. I've never heard that expression.
Yeah, 1.5 million subscribers.
Oh.
I mean, it's all artificial, right? It's all artificial.
Right. Oh, what a bot agent. Not even real.
Yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know.
It's like if Smith had a vagina in the Matrix.
Yeah, right.
Tried to just nursemaid you, right?
I'd like to share with you a revelation I've had since starting my time here. I think we need to decenter and use our white female privilege. Oh no,
the voices, God.
Yeah. Well, this is where we're at now. This is essentially this race, without getting, too deep into it. It's coming down to essentially single women, the voting block, against everybody else. That's kind of where we're at. And of course, the simps that protect those single women. Because that is what the women without children and husbands has become. They've become a voting block that acts on the behest of people who check the correct boxes. Kamala Harris will leverage this as much as she can. And all we can hope is that people, all we can hope is that people are going to be discerning enough to see that she is just an awful candidate. But I don't have enough faith in humanity to think that it's not going to be an issue regardless. So we'll see.
I say I have hope for humanity, but I lack faith in society. And that's ultimately the problem is society gets in the way of our humanity at every turn.
That's true. But it's okay. It's okay. Single women is redundant. Thank you. Mr. Anderson, I'm going to need you to use your listening ears.
Your inner voices.
Somebody make that. Somebody get the picture of this woman and put sunglasses on her and maybe an earpiece. Right. Oh, she's got an earpiece, actually. She's got an earpiece.
Yeah. She's doing the work for us.
Yeah, so a lot of it's done already. Okay. Norwegian says more men need to be strong and say no to women. 100%. It's not hard, but men are struggling, man. Men are struggling too. They have to be courageous and they have to stop caring about what people think and just speak the truth. That's it. But anyway, we should wrap.
Speak. It'll never be hard again.
No. But we should wrap it up here. This has gone over a little bit, but it's okay. 2.5 hours, not bad. Do you have any final thoughts, John? Before we'll do another one later in the week.
Yeah. Final thoughts for today. This has been great, and I can't wait to do it again. This is fun times. And I guess the other final thought is, know where your woke white women are at, and do everything you can to support them because they need it.
Yeah, really, they do. All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining me on the show. I'm going to try to do a couple of these a week. We'll see how it goes. And maybe if it becomes something that is worth doing more, like you guys enjoy this content and you want to see more of it, then please consider supporting us. Go to our Discord. There's a link in the description so you can join our Discord server. You're already in there. I know that because I looked. And there you guys can share your ideas for suggested topics, etc. I know some people are in there and it's free and it is live right now. I haven't figured out how to make an evergreen link. I thought that I did, but it didn't seem to work. So the link in the description of this video is the most recent and you can join the Discord. Hopefully I'll see you all there. And maybe what we'll do is do another one on Thursday if there's been any developments or anything that we can talk about. I imagine that by then there will be because it seems like time is just moving so fast, these days.
Oh.
So we'll definitely have stuff to talk about and maybe share some suggestions or recommendations for good things to occupy your time with that are good for your spirit and your mind, and we'll try to share some of those in the next one. So, John, are you good to do something on Thursday, maybe?
Oh, I'm totally down.
All
yeah.
right.
I mean, this
all right.
This has been a great fun experience. I would gladly do it as many times the week as we can get away with.
All right, cool. So we'll do something on Thursday. But for now, I'm gonna have to end the show here. So. Firstly, thanks again, John, for joining me on the show. Thank you guys for watching so much. If you guys like this video, please hit like. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let me know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of the Cult your war, because you can't spell culture without cult. And we'll talk to you all in the next video.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.